Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Pensado's Place. We're at a very special place, a place that just passed its 3-year anniversary, a place where there's no other place like it in the country. It's an extraordinary experience. We're sitting in this beautiful facility called Verse. It is the only restaurant meet recording studio. It is put together by the man, the icon, one of the icons of our business, Manny Marroquin, who you'll see in a second. But I've been here a number of times, and one of the things that makes this place so incredible is the food. And I think there's a correlation between food and music, and we have the food master with us, Chef Oscar Torres.
Thank you guys so much. What up? Thank you so much.
So, man, you are cooking. It's such an interesting thing. You are cooking for the rich and famous,
Yep.
but also the restaurant. If you're a regular guy, it feels just as comfortable.
Yeah,
Correct?
it's definitely one of those feeling of nourishment, right? And to us, that's the most important thing, is where we, to have somebody feel nourished, whether you're, selling 50 million records a year or you're just your average person. For us, it's the same as making music. You want people to live and die by it, and you want them to listen to your music and love it, and with food, it's very similar. You want to feel like you're being transported somewhere, you're reminded of something, and at the end of the day, you feel nourished,
The thing that I find fascinating about food, and in particular the way you deal with food, is that the correlation to me to music making is very similar. So tell me from a chef's perspective if I'm close.
Yeah.
You have to pick amongst certain ingredients and not clutter it up.
Yep.
The tastes come from subtle things that you have to know how to put together. That's like writing a song.
Yep.
Presentation is important.
Yep.
Right? Amount is important.
Yep.
I think oftentimes in music, what people sometimes don't understand, our audience sees it all the time, is that you're trying to get to simplicity, and simplicity is complex.
Yeah, man.
Like, it's almost
Very
easier
complex.
to be complex. So when your food comes out as simple, it ain't simple to necessarily make.
Yeah, it's funny because we always talk about the arts and commerce, right? And for us, it's like there's only so much art that we could have, right?
Yeah.
There's only so much that we could, develop, that then, like you said, to your point, then it just becomes too much, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it's obviously driven by inspiration. It's driven by things that you see, and just like with music, it could be driven by things that you could hear and music that you grew up listening to as you were a kid that might inspire you to like make this new track, right? Mm-hmm. With food, it's the same thing. There's this emotional attachment to it that you create based off of the way you feel, and that's one of the biggest things that I learned from Manny and like his world, is that, he mixes with emotion, right?
Oh, man.
And I never really understood what that mean until I started to hear it, and I was just like, man, like, this is a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And I know at some point we're going to get into it, but, once we were doing everything during the pandemic, it was very much one of those like, hey man, like, I felt like I was cooking for him, and he was just like, dude, just cook for yourself, just cook for like something that makes you feel like emotionally great about what you're doing. And as a chef, I mean, you don't get that very often,
Right.
As a chef, you get the like, hey man, we gotta think about, getting the stars, and we gotta think about, the James Beard and the accolades and this demo. And so that sometimes could kind of put you in a box, and it could kind of not let you, veer off into something that you never knew that you could really tap into,
Audience, you just heard something that if you take anything away from it, and Manny's going to join us, take that away, because at the end of the day, what you're facing is AI and all these complicated things and stuff that is coming at you. You don't know where to go and what to do with it. But at the end of the day, if you don't feel, if you don't put some emotion to it, if it doesn't touch you, it's not the best it can be. It may be good, but you want to try to be great. And great always has emotion in it, correct?
It definitely has emotion in it. It's like, I always tell the guys in the back, they, out of everybody, we have an incredible team, and everybody we have in the team has the ability to create an incredible menu, right? But you know, there's a certain standard that you obviously have to abide by, but you don't always find yourself being able to create something, having the emotion that you could have to it, allow you to sustain that standard,
That's
right?
right.
So sometimes, you know, like, yeah, can they put the menu together? 1,000%, you know,
Right.
but is there going to be that same everyday, you know, word for word on the things that they're doing? There, it might not be, you know,
Right.
there could be a way where they can achieve it. But for us, we're so focused on, like we said, you know, doing things with the emotion and being able to just create as creatives without any, you know, any barriers. Because if you think about it, we have no barriers at all. With
Yeah.
the food, there's no barrier as to what we can and can't cook.
Wow.
With the music, it's the same. There's no barrier as to what we will have perform from one night to the other,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
So for us, that gives us the opportunity to just really, you know, blend something that, as creative, especially being an Angelino, to take a little bit of everything from everywhere. And again, that's what I personally love the most about music, is that, you know, you listen to the Herb Alperts of the world, you know, you listen to Rise, and then you all of a sudden hear, you know, Biggie Smalls track, and you're like, wait a minute,
Wait, hold on.
how did that happen?
Right.
And then you start, you know, realizing that, you know, I remember one of my old chefs used to say that, you know, we were all pirates, right? Because we would all take, you know, a little bit from everything everywhere,
Yeah.
without even knowing. Sometimes, you know,
Right.
you just kind of get in this creative mode, and then you're like, something that might come up to your head might be little pieces that you garner from everywhere, whether it be something that you hear, or something that you see, or that you taste. All those things at some point correlate into this, like, this magic, right?
Which is exactly what music is. Exactly what it is. If you get the opportunity to come to Verse, what you'll find, and what Chef is talking about, somehow all comes together with, it's intentional, but it's easy.
Yeah.
Like, it's been thought through. If you are somebody who loves music, there's a reason that Manny Marroquin is on the Mount Rushmore of what goes on. And it's because if you listen to a Manny mix, Manny's intentions are in the song, and you don't know how you got caught up in it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're rolling down I've called Manny like in the middle of the night going, did you mix this?
Yeah. Same. Or I've done the opposite. I'm like, wait, you didn't mix this track, huh? He's like, nope. I'm like, you know, you could feel it and you could hear it too,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. And I have for years called him the nuclear option, because if you want your shit to blow up, but it's Manny's ability to say, I'm going to be intentional about these things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get in the way of the artist's intent.
Yeah.
I'm going to enhance it, but in a way that feels completely comfortable to you, which is what, like, this restaurant to me is a Manny mix.
Yeah.
It is literally specific, easy, and all you know when you come here, my most fascinating thing, sort of ramble, is watching somebody who's not in the music business or not in the entertainment business. They just had a good time.
Yeah.
They had curated music. They didn't know that they liked it that much. They didn't know. And then you come along with your magical food ass and absolutely kill it. A quick thing on you, because I see Manny's here. Did you go to culinary school? Where did Chef come from?
Yeah. I spent, you know, so I knew that I wanted to cook when I was pretty young, and that was mainly just because, you know, my dad was the one that always would cook at home, and being his only boy, you know, he would gravitate towards me.
Love it.
My mom, unfortunately, can't boil water to save her life, but so you know, I knew from a young age, and when I was in high school, I started a summer bridge program at Le Cordon Bleu from I think 11th grade to my senior year, and so I did that right during high school, and then eventually once I finished with school, I was like, you know what, I'm going to continue on this path, and I went to Le Cordon Bleu, and far before that, I mean, when I was a kid, my parents would ship me off to Jalisco with my grandpa.
Nice.
And I would go to the farmer's market and sell vegetables with him every Saturday,
wow.
Sunday.
What a great training. ground.
Or, other summers I would be in Sonoma County, on my uncle's farm. He had a cow farm, and we would go and just, spend the summers there. And without really knowing, I was already really close
You
to
were
that
being
world,
trained,
right? I had
no
already
question.
kind of been a part of this, this something that now I obviously enjoyed thoroughly, like the farmer's market and,
Sure.
and places like Sonoma, Napa Valley and all that stuff. But it's definitely one of those things where you just don't realize it until you're older that was kind of, something that you were already in tune with.
When did you know that you had a palate?
I would say probably like when I was 14 or 15.
Really? Yeah.
There was times where, look, again, my dad, he would cook. We weren't restaurant people.
Sure.
Like it was like, that was once a year, like for a birthday, right?
Right.
So everything was all done at home, and he never really had, the upbringing of where he would cook, where his parents would cook, because he was always working. So
Yeah.
he never really got that like home style cook.
Right.
So he would always kind of just do everything very like,
Love it.
he would just like wing it, right? Sometimes it was really good, and sometimes it was like, damn, Dad, please
Right.
don't ever make that again. Like, please
Dad.
stop. And it was like that, like ability to see, the good and the bad, and being able to kind of like dignify which was which.
Yeah.
And then there was certain dishes that I would have, and I was just like, man, like this has really good spice and acidity and textures, and then I started to really kind of think that way. And then I would ask him like, hey, can you show me how to make this? And he would show me, and then it would just blow my mind, because I was like, man, I can't believe it takes that much work for that end result, right? And to me, that was something that was kind of beautiful, like to me, that was something that was like,
Art
man,
form.
there's
Absolute
an art form to something that, it wasn't like that was his career either, because he's far from
Right.
that world. But it was really interesting to see that somebody could just kind of create something, and again, back to the nourishment thing, right? Because it was that feeling of being nourished, whether he was your family member or not. That feeling is very special. So
Let's get Manny in. What do we think?
yeah.
This is the man, the myth, the legend. We are passing the 3-year anniversary of this incredible facility that we're sitting in called Verse. The creator and originator and dreamer and entrepreneur and legendary icon, Manny Marroquin, is right here to my left. You guys know him as a mixer. What you don't know him as is a guy who constantly uses his vision to not only advance the cause of the arts, but also do it in a way that most people don't really do it. Who would say, hey, I'm a mixer, let me build a restaurant. And then let me invest in it. And then let me make it technologically way ahead of its time. And then let me have a chef like Chef Oscar Torres who fucking kills. And on and on and on. Hey, bro.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
Man. Well, the fun part about my job is I get to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Man, who would have thought, given the journey to get here, you'd be at 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 years as 2.0, but the idea is, it started way before that.
Way before.
And, I always say that you're only as good as your team. So I feel like what we put together, under this, I think, amazing restaurant, studio, venue, is have a great team. And I'm glad you have Chef here, because without him, the whole team, we wouldn't be where we're at. So, I can't take all the credit.
Well, the thing that I would say is emblematic of what you do, and in finding somebody like Chef, I don't know if there's anything I haven't done. Gone to Larrabee, watched you work, seen staff at Larrabee, seen staff here, where the idea of team and pride is not built into it.
Yeah.
And, I think we're similar in terms of the kind of way we run teams. Because I don't believe you get there by yourself.
No, definitely not. It's funny because I've been reading a lot of like Phil Jackson and John Wooden.
Me too,
Coach
man.
K.
Oh, me too. Same thing.
The moment I get up, man, I it's almost like going to the gym, and if you want bigger biceps, you still do curls.
That's right.
For me to be mentally, because my goal is always to be a better leader, just to so that is my goal right now on this side. So listening to Coach K and Wooden, and
Huge.
they say exactly what you're saying is, it's about the team effort and how you lead the team. And it's not about the championship necessarily, but how the journey to get to win the championship.
100%.
Right? And I hope that you feel that at Verse, Larrabee, where I think we all feel like we're part of something special.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean anything except we feel like it's something special.
That's right.
And we're just going to go the extra mile to make it the best we can and what we have control over.
Take this point, audience. When you're doing it for yourself, that it's your own brand standard, everybody else is going to get it. Like, there are people who do it for others, which is fine, but when it's your own personal bar, everybody's going to get it, because your bar is higher for you than other people will set for you.
Yeah.
So, and lovingly, even though I'm always glowing about Manny, it's because Manny delivers.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I get, same thing you get. There's not a time that I come in this restaurant, or from the time I've met you, that there isn't intention, a grace, the level of food. And the biggest one was one time we were here and we closed the restaurant down, and you came out and hung out with us. And I got in my car and went, oh, hell yeah. It goes beyond, as you envisioned Verse, is it meeting your expectations?
Yeah, it's a buddy of mine and I would always say, let's get tattoos, and it's gonna say adapt or die.
Yeah.
And I feel like the vision was always there to have exactly what we have. So that's actually exceeded my expectations, I feel what we've been adapting is, hey, it's a new business that I know nothing about. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of the hardest businesses,
Of all the things you're going to pick. Yeah.
Music and restaurants. It's like top 5 things you should not get into.
Exactly. Can you solve the Middle East shit next? Yeah, right.
Let's go for it.
So safe to say that I like certain challenges.
To say the least.
But I going back to, success is really, it's all what is success. We do in the studios, like what's success to every artist.
Right.
Some artists think success is having 1 billion streams. Others think it's selling out the crypto arena 5-9. There's different levels of success.
Yeah.
So the word success, we all gotta identify what that really means to each one of us. Success for Chef may be, man, I'm gonna have a perfect Friday night, and that's success.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that it's really important to always remind ourselves that success is, is what you want it to be.
Right.
Goals are the ones that we set, right? And then success comes along with it. It's like as a mixer, in my mind, I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And not that I'm the best, but I try to always strive for that. And I knew that I wasn't gonna get there overnight. I knew that it was gonna take. And what we talk about here on this side is like, I always say, hey man, let's just get 1% better. Just one every day. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's gonna be a gradual change anyway. So if we can get better, and I always ask myself, what was the 1% today? Oh, I tied my shoelaces in a record time.
There we go.
0.2 seconds.
Move the ball forward.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I got 0.2 seconds.
That's right.
Back. So it's small attainable goals that we would want to now look back and say, well, 100 days later, we improved by 100%.
Absolutely.
But I think that's a very, very healthy way of looking at it, very challenging, because it's, some people are like, man, do you like the restaurant? I'm like, honestly, I'm being more inspired by the restaurant as much as I do next door.
Exactly.
And most people would say, oh man, I hate this, and that. And I'm like, that's funny you say that, because I love this, and that, what you hate. So it's really a matter of perspective. Things that people would hate about a restaurant, I find, the challenges. I mean, you guys see how excited I get when we come with systems,
Amazing.
And I think that's, I think it spreads with the team, because now the team, everyone's like, hey, what if we do this? I'm like, yes, that's what we got to do.
You know, all of us are leaders.
Yeah.
Whether we chose it or not, it's just been part of, in order for us to be happy with ourselves, we've had to lead, you know, and I have found that when my team is inspired, I'm more inspired. So if as a leader, I can go, hey, bringing this to you, and they go, oh, hell, let's go kill. And I go back and say, oh, let me go do some more, you know, and
Infectious.
yeah, and it's not work then.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh, I've been given this opportunity. I give a lot of speeches to college kids, and I always tell them that being a steward of pop culture is an incredible privilege, and don't screw that up. For somebody to say, I'm going to make a decision to buy something or go to a school or do something based on your taste, then you better damn sure bring it to the table and not waste that opportunity, because there's such a small percentage of us that get to be there. And what's interesting about your leadership style, and I don't know, and I want to hear how you found him. There seems like there's nobody better to be chef for this restaurant than him.
Yeah.
How'd you guys connect?
I mean, you know, I feel like, no, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it, but I feel like we kind of found each other.
Okay.
I think it was a perfect time. It was a perfect storm.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, from what I know in my short, you know, restaurateur life, is that chefs are artists. You know, I mean, well, that's the obvious. They're true artists, and chefs artists have to be dealt a certain way.
Yes.
And I've had 30 years of experience dealing with different personalities. So I feel like once the personalities click, right? I always said after my previous chef is like, you know, I want a personality more than the talent. And I've always said this next door with some of my engineers. It's like, I can teach talent, not that I can teach how to cook, but you're gonna evolve. That's your art, you know?
Yeah.
But the personality is the key. So my thing is, I rather find the personality that can adapt, that's willing to always be the best they can be. And most important is the criticism that's going to come from that. Some people, I always say, see it as criticism, but constructive criticism is a way to learn and grow.
Yes.
And I feel like magic wouldn't be bird and bird wouldn't be without each other. Yeah. So you need that sort of like, okay, I lost this game. I need to practice more or shoot free, whatever it is. So I feel like the personality, and when Chef came over, you know, I won't go into the long, boring story on my previous chef, but it was kind of like, you know, I think we found each other it was just the perfect time, you know, and you know, again, I'd rather have the personality than the actual talent. Now, Chef, I'm not taking that away, because he is one of, if not the most talented chefs in town. I like the way he's grown, not as a chef, but as a leader too. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, some people are born leaders. Others need to find themselves to be better leaders. And that comes maybe with a combination of age, experience, and other things. And what I'm proud of is not only his technical skills, but his leadership as it's evolving. And to see that is, honestly, I get a maybe even bigger satisfaction to seeing the team grow into what they didn't even, well, maybe they imagined it in their heads, but they're seeing it now.
Right.
The results are in front of them.
There's a big difference. Yeah.
And then the Red Sea parts, because now you have a clear vision on where you want to go and what it could take to the. Like they say, you win one championship, you got the code now to win more, right? But the first one's always the hardest. And I feel like that's what we're doing. We're trying to win. You know, we're not trying to win games, we're trying to win championships. And look, in a very humble way, whatever that means to us. You know?
And that's the beauty behind it, is like, you know, we spent so much time trying to figure out exactly what that next level was going to be, right? Until we realized that, you know, our industry is always so tunnel vision with what you're supposed to do, right? And I think that could be very cloudy for a lot of chefs, because, you know, you kind of want to, you know, you adhere to the accolades, and you adhere to wanting to be this certain person in the industry. And that's one of the things that I appreciated the most about Manny, was that, you know, he said it earlier, obviously the 1%, and we talk about that so often. And that's very rare to find in our industry. That's really rare to not have somebody come and say, hey man, we want this by this time, and at this month we're going to be here, and this is what we're looking for, right? That's a very uncommon thing. And growing up in the industry, you know, you would always feel obviously the pressure of those things, but I think being able to work with somebody that understood the personal side of it was massive, you know. And I think now that, you know, you think of Manny in the music world, right? I think of him obviously as like my friend and the restaurateur side. And I've always thought since the beginning, I'm like, man, this guy's going to be the greatest restaurateur of our generation. And you know, it's funny because there's a lot of things that people would give you a laundry list of what that means, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's very simple, you know, and you said it earlier, it's the simplicity, but with the structure. And him being able to do that in the way he does it's really interesting. And it's brought me to like levels like we've talked about before that I never thought I would really ever reach.
Well, let me add this as a consumer fan, not as Herb, whatever Herb is. In knowing Manny as long as I've known Manny, in watching the various permutations of just Manny setting his own bar, right? And then
Loving this.
Keep going.
well, the funny thing about Verse was our former studio, Pensado's Place studio, was across the street. And so when Manny was trying things, we would have a Moose Boosh tastings. And he would say,
nice.
He would say, come over and look at this material. And I was like, God, the fact that he's even asking me is cool, because I don't know shit about restaurants. And I would sit in the back and it was just not constructed, and so on and so forth, and go, that plate looks cool versus this thing. So you saw his process. He was mixing.
Yeah.
He was finding the elements then and mixing. But now let me fast forward. In coming to the restaurant as a consumer, from the time it started, when he talks about your evolution, I have seen it just in the way when you roll through the room. I've seen the way people respond to you. I see the way you handle them. Because what people don't understand is Hollywood presents an extra complication in the math. Everything's high profile. You have reputations. You have people who are looking to, you know, there's some people are supportive. There's some people that aren't. They're testing you all the time. It's a whole extra level of stuff. So Manny comes with a reputation, then the restaurant is a try, and then you come with a reputation. Now the reputation's big, and every single night, the quality of this place, the intention of the way you guys think about is consistent, and the team continues to grow. It's amazing.
Thank you.
It is. It is.
Talk about it as being every night is a performance. It's a ballet. And, you know, and when you go see a play or a ballet, or you know, you get lost in it. The experience. Of that.
Oh, perfect.
We're very much aware of the moment you even get out of your car, what that experience is going to be like, and what we have control over, how we curate it. And then it's up to you. We don't, you know, thankfully we don't worry about the 10%ers that are going to hate anyways. We
always
worry
good.
about, we want to worry about the 90% that actually won an experience.
That's right.
So we, you know, we're very mindful of every moment, every, it's the play. It's like this Broadway show that we've been rehearsing over and over.
Put on it every night and keep it fresh. You know, in wrapping up, as I'm a chef ho. Now I can't. I literally.
No comment.
I literally can't boil water. I can do a little bit of breakfast, but I can tell you every Bobby Flay, every Kevin Lee, every Stephanie Izar. We can go. Alex Gorsh, every show, triple threat. It's for some reason, it's musical to me. When they're putting food, we were talking earlier, you know, when you put food together, much like when you're mixing something or writing a song, it's what elements make sense. What spice will throw it off? How do you present it? What proportions should it come in? And when you're mixing, you're making those decisions. When a songwriter's songwriting, they're making those decisions. And So I think when I watch those shows, it allows me to get away from my business, but still correlate to it.
Right.
You know, I can sit and go, oh man, look at that artist doing what they're doing, and look at finally their art.
Yeah.
And if you get a chance to taste it. So you guys are where I actually experience it as opposed to watch it on TV. Thank you very much. Audience, it's this is Chef Oscar Torres. We're in a place that is just the only place of its kind in the world, called Verse, and all put together by the man to my left, Manny. You continue being Manny.
Thank you, man.
Man,
Always
Always
good
a pleasure.
to see you and spend time with you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Join us next week. See you later.